Welcome to the You Can Man Podcast, episode 68. I'm Tim.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Dave.
And on this week's show, Analyze This with Josh. Welcome back to the You Can Man Podcast, where we believe what one man can do, you can do as well with a little help from your friends and the proper know-how. On this week's show, we're talking about Josh and all about Josh. Don't you just love this, Josh?
I am so ready for this.
You want me to just say your name more? It's all about Josh this week.
Yeah.
Does that make you uncomfortable?
He tried to talk us out of it. I mean, literally 3 minutes ago, he's like, we're not going to do this,
And
right?
apparently
we're doing it.
My voting rights were taken away since I missed last week.
Yeah, last week's show was about Dave and his work. And then this week, it's going to be about Josh, but not necessarily all about his work. We are going to talk about that. But it's kind of the things that led him up to his work that I think is a little bit more interesting. So we're going to get into that. But guys, what has been going on this week?
July 4th, Independence Day.
Yes.
That was the major event of the week.
Did you read the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, I mean, it hangs above my bed, so.
Wow. Okay. Well, good for you. I read it. I hadn't read it in a long time. It's surprisingly, I don't know why I thought it was going to take me a year to read it. It's not that long.
Right.
Beautifully written.
Yes.
Beautifully written.
It breaks it down pretty clearly.
It does break it down.
Issues were.
And yeah, it breaks down the issues, why they were doing this.
Also and again, this is, an American thing. It was like professional. They were like doing a professional courtesy, like, I'll have you know that, it wasn't just like, okay, we're going to war. I guess Britain kind of.
Yeah, they were like,
on.
we regret to inform you that this is happening.
We have something to tell you. It's not me, it's you.
That was back in the day where they fought war formally. You know what I mean? It was like this.
Just line them up on each side.
Yeah, like we're going to do this.
Right.
And Josh, you shot off some fireworks for us because Josh lives right across the street from us. And
did you get some mortars?
No,
I bought fireworks in Georgia for the first time in my life this year.
Me too.
Like 4 days ago or whatever.
Too.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting experience. There were people there that were spending a lot of money on fireworks.
That's
like
what Josh was saying.
The guy, it was like two people in front of me. The lady was, she rings him up and she was like, that'll be $378.48. I was like, whoa.
That's a low spender where I was. I was at this huge warehouse place. They had no less than 8 lines. The lines were from the front of the store to the back of the store.
Okay. We went to different places.
I wanted a mortar because I'd seen those done and
but you got to buy like 24 of them.
Well, and they're like $90, please.
Yep.
And I'm like, no. So I walked out of there, $48 poorer, but I have like young kids. I don't care. They don't care. So I bought the cheap stuff, the fun stuff. Well,
the quiet stuff.
We bought one thing that was a good little, anyway.
I'm going to have to do
he shot one off and I was like, okay, that's a firework.
And it was actually pretty cheap. But anyway, yeah, first time I bought fireworks.
I'm going to have to do the mortars one year. I'm just going to, have to spend $100 for the 12 mortars. Because, I mean, you can buy real fireworks just, right down the street, which seems crazy. I don't know why that seems crazy.
Yeah, for our listeners who don't know, Georgia, I mean, it's been a good minute
It's been a long time.
It's probably been 6 years, I'm going to say.
I think it's been more than that.
If not more, that we have had legal fireworks sales. I think prior to that, maybe you could buy stupid stuff like sparklers.
I don't think you could buy anything because, we would go to Florida like once or twice a year, and I would always be mad that I forgot to remind my parents, not that they would have stopped anyway. Well, maybe they would have, but we never bought it. You had to buy fireworks. You had to like plan 6 months ahead on the drive. Like, hey, we need to get fireworks while we're in Alabama.
Yeah. So if you grew up in Georgia, especially like Metro Atlanta, that was always a childhood memory. You're about to cross over the state line into Alabama, Tennessee. For me, it was more Tennessee, I think, going to see my grandmother in Nashville. And that's what you'd start seeing the billboards for the fireworks place. And then you would see it. Yep. The giant warehouse. And then you would always be so monumentally disappointed when your parents were like, no, not this time.
Like, we live in Georgia.
Now I see why. I don't know if they were always this expensive, but man, there were people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, just shopping cart full of fireworks.
I mean,
I can see the prices like $200 for this huge box. Insane.
they need that day to stay open the other days.
Yeah,
of the
they're
year.
open what, like 2 weeks a year, maybe. So
Yeah, they're seasonal. They'll shut down. I don't even know. I mean, I guess that's why they have to spend so much, because they're having to, pay rent, I would assume, throughout the year, obviously. So
Different
anyways,
world.
I'll just enjoy your fireworks, Josh, so you can just keep doing that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll all go in together.
Yes. Okay, so my wife, I was talking to her, and we've all lost a bunch of weight around this table here.
Quit
And
bragging.
I don't know if I was like saying something about my belt or something, but she didn't know that I just kept my same belt and I cut it.
Same here.
And she's
Same
like,
here, brother.
that's funny. And I was like, yeah, Josh did the same thing.
did it look okay? Because I had the same
Yeah.
issue. I just bought a new belt because I was like, I'm never going to get it to look
Leather
right.
belt. Right here. Check it.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah, no, that looks like a Boy Scout belt that you made like
No,
at camp.
this is exactly what it looked
No,
like.
it's too squared off.
That's
I
what mine
mirrored it.
is.
Too squared
I
off.
mirrored it.
Yeah.
I
so
traced it.
Josh is talking about, there's certain angles on the end of the belt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did the same thing. And
It's a cheap leather belt. This is
My
probably
wife
like
was like, you need a new belt. I was like, Josh did the same thing.
this is a Marshall's belt, man. Nothing
You know?
wrong with that. TJ
Yeah.
Maxx.
So she's like, you should talk about that on the podcast. But I'm like, I don't need a new belt. In fact, I made new holes,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Like
Same.
you do. And then I had to add another hole. Anyways, it's working just fine. And
Yeah.
I'm totally okay
I
with
take
it.
pride. I will say I take pride. I have a belt that I've had, I don't know how long. It's been multiple decades, and I take pride in that. I mean, it's still looking good. It's still rolling. Like, if you buy a leather belt, that thing's going to last, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. This mine's not real leather for sure. It's cheap. I know. So I didn't have a problem cutting it up.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys. Have you lost a bunch of weight and just cut your belt because you're so frugal? I'm going to say frugal, not cheap. Okay, you're frugal because it's still working order. It's fine.
Or just kept that same belt and you get bigger, because I've done the opposite too.
And you just
Yeah.
flip it up and loop it
keep
down.
making it fit. Just going the wrong way.
Oh, sorry, going the other
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Going
yeah.
up. I've done that.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie either.
Have you had to add a hole on the?
I don't think
the end?
I've had to do that. I think I've stayed in that zone. But I've had jeans that you turn into 40s instead of 30s.
Oh, I've had jeans you don't button the top. You can leave the top button undone.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good times.
Okay, let's get into talking about Josh. All about Josh on today's podcast. It's a Josh podcast. We're going to talk about Josh today.
We're all very excited about it.
Over the moon.
Yeah, Josh was like, I don't really want to talk about my job very much. But okay, so the reason why we're doing this is you guys get to hear us talk here and there about ourselves, but we never dedicate a lot of time just to talk about what we do and that sort of
on
thing.
a regular life
On a
basis.
regular basis of just regular
We talked
stuff.
about weekend stuff.
Yeah. Now, last week we did Dave's is basically just your job. We didn't talk a ton about other stuff.
Right.
But we know things about Dave because of his segments, because he talks about knives and he's into knives and that sort of thing. And so I thought that was good. But we're going to talk about Josh this week. Josh is, we'll talk about his job first. He is I had to write this down. I got to pull this up.
It's always a good sign.
He is a senior, no, mind you, senior sales,
Senior. It's
senior sales operations analyst.
yeah. You made it sound way more exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Are you senior to is there an analyst who is beneath you?
There are analysts that are not senior.
Okay.
Okay.
I am not in charge of them.
Right. Okay.
That's all I'm
I'm sure we're gonna
That's
get
all
it.
I'm at liberty to say.
I'm sure we're going to get deep into that. So I'm excited
Okay.
about that.
And I'm going to ask you some questions that you've actually hit on before yourself. And so therefore I am comfortable asking you this.
Ooh.
And it has everything to do with how you got to where you are, because you have talked a lot about, like you said in a previous podcast, you think you got a book in you. I think everybody
Ooh.
thinks they've got a book in them,
Yeah.
but you have a real concrete idea of what that book would be. And it would be basically telling the 20-something-year-old male
Yeah.
how clueless and aimless a lot of the things that they're doing
Yeah.
are, right? Now that's we're painting with a broad brush
Yeah, we
there.
are.
I'd like to kick this off and just I'd like to give my opinion on how Josh ended up where he is. I'm not really going to do that, but maybe I should. I mean, we lived together probably for too long when we were younger in our formative years, right?
But boy, do we look back on it fondly.
Oh yeah, very fondly. Go ahead. I'm not going to do that to you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Dave.
well, I'm sure Dave will chime in because Dave was really with Josh during those years.
Oh,
I don't like to say with Josh because that sounds a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not very representative of what was
Right.
going on.
My
Right.
formative years, he was.
Josh and I lived together in college. For those of you that don't know,
Right. So first off, let's just clear the air here and just say that we all took 7+ years. We crammed a 4-year degree into 7 years is
Right.
what we like to say, right? So all of us around this table
Or
took
8 or 9.
it
Whoa,
incredible.
9 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. So I thought it was
so we
closer to 7.
should have come away with PhDs, but we did not. It's basically what happened.
Yeah. But you know what, though? I don't know about you, Dave, but we didn't really come away with a ton of student debt.
Yeah, I had some
like a lot of.
I had
lot of
some, but
folks.
not an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, I had more than I should have for sure. Josh, talk to us about why in the world it took you 9 years to graduate college.
Well, okay, this is more of a good topic for me than what
See, I
actually
told you
do.
it was going to be okay.
Well, I don't like talking. My job is it has analyst.
Oh,
in the
we're gonna
title.
get to that.
So, yeah. So here's the thing, and again, everything. This is not like talking about regret or anything. This is just looking back and analyzing and looking at things and saying, okay, if I were in the position to mentor somebody like
Yes.
my 3 sons who will be in this position, what could I do differently? Where could I challenge them in
Right.
places?
And
that
this is
I
why
wasn't?
this is completely in line with You Can Man, because this has everything to do with passing on maybe even mistakes that you've made, but good things that you've
Sure.
done in the past and that have put you in a place where you are now.
Yeah. And I hope this buildup doesn't sound like I'm going to have some cool story like I was in prison and stuff and turned it around or anything like that. It was just,
You were in a self-made prison.
yeah, my situation was more common in guys that grow up in the suburbs, kind of like us, of you kind of have it pretty good, pretty easy. If you don't have to try super hard in school and all that, then you kind of get into this mode where you coast. And
Because you were a smart guy and you did really well in high school.
yeah,
Yes?
I was in honors and AP and all this stuff and got into the colleges I want. Well, one of the first decisions, I decided to go to the local college, which is a big university now, Kennesaw State, instead of UGA, right? So that was kind of a first step of I'm going to take the easy path. I would have failed out of UGA in a hot minute. I did get put on academic probation at some point at my other school. So all that to say is I've seen the path of allowing yourself to coast and to not put in the work to get through something that you've signed up for, which was college, right? I lost the Hope Scholarship that we have in Georgia is, if you graduate high school, it's all changing right now. But when I was graduating, you get a certain GPA in high school, you qualify for the Hope Scholarship, you get your books paid for and your tuition paid for.
You get $200 for
And,
books.
okay, whatever it was. I lost that in one semester. One semester in, I can't achieve the GPA. So just all these things, all these small things that seem small at the time, but over time they add up. One thing that is kind of a regret, when you have a male of that age that is not built for school, and this is a whole other podcast we could talk about, people who aren't prepared to actually go into college, and maybe even they don't need to go to college. Trades, we'll totally do a whole show on that.
Do you think looking back, I mean, it's kind of, you can't really do this, but looking back, do you think you would have skipped college?
Yeah, well, somebody needed to be in my life to understand you are 100% not prepared to go to college. You need to find something else to do.
You need a gap year or 2 or 3?
Not even gap. Go do something productive that's not college. And for me, which is sad, I was 19 years old on September 11th or right about. And I had nothing going on in my life. Now looking back, I'm oh my gosh, somebody should have been go serve your country.
Should have been signing on the dotted
go
line.
do something, do something with purpose. Because I was coasting. I was semi going to school. My parents were, supplementing my life It's just a lot of things that there was no direction. It was, this young person was just allowed to kind of coast around and drift around to find what you want to do. But there's no time for that. It's like precious time.
Do you think, and I think about this myself with other things, do you think that had there been that person in your life to say those things, would you have actually listened to them though?
I mean, there's 1,000 variables to that. It depends on who it was.
Right.
It depends on how the relationship you have with them, the history you have with them.
Because if I had come to you, you would have been like, bro, look at yourself.
Yeah, no. It couldn't be a peer. It would have to be like a serious mentor.
Yes.
Either that or future Josh. Would you listen to future Josh?
I don't know if he was super cool, maybe.
Yeah, and I would give the same answer for myself. Yeah, it completely depends on who it is. And so that makes me start thinking more and more and more, and I'm sure you're going to get to this, about being intentional about investing in those younger men ourselves now as we're getting older. Even though we feel so inadequate to do that, I still think that we can at least tell them our mistakes.
Yeah, and one thing, I mean, and I'm not a good, well, I think I'm a decent brother, but like I've been able to share some things with my younger siblings that are, the ones that are not as close in age to me, that like I've seen them implement certain things where I'm like, man, they're way smarter than I was at that age, and so I've been able to kind of, as messy as things were for me in my mid 20s and when they were in high school, I could still be like, hey, look, like, don't screw around like me, kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's been good. But yeah, just that for men, especially that 18 to like 24-year-old range, like you can get so lost,
right?
And like trying to like depend on yourself to figure things out.
Yeah, you don't have anything figured out.
If there's not a clear path or someone clearly directing, then like a trade that's tactile that they can. Because think about it, like school itself is not designed for males, and I know that's controversial to say, but like guys like hands-on, they like touching things. The sitting in the classroom still is not where they learn most effectively. And so, and that's not just for elementary school age kids. That goes all the way through your early 20s at least.
Right. So let's talk about what got you out of that.
Yeah. So like many messes you can get into in life can be caused by girls if you're a guy. And the opposite is true as well. That, I met my wife, like my current wife. I was in, year 6 of college.
When he says current wife, that's his first wife.
My current and only wife that I've ever had.
Yes.
Well, you made it sound worse. You said it was his first wife.
Right.
Yes, my wife that I'm married to now and is the only wife I've been married to. Yeah, we started dating. I was like year 6, and she came from a household that was super like, you will go to college and you will graduate in 4 years, maybe 5, but this is the expectation and this is how it is in this house, especially if we're like footing the bill for some of this stuff, which is how it should be. She was in her, she was wrapping up her senior year of college when we met. She didn't even say this out loud, but it was just understood, and even being around her parents and stuff, that like, if we're going to date, we need a clear path to graduation for you. And so I kicked it into gear. Like I've been going for 6 years, like part-time. I'd changed majors, which is like another like scam that kids run on their parents all the time. The whole changing majors thing is, it's really buying more time to do nothing. Anyway, I just kicked it into gear, got in all my classes, like booked a full schedule semester, knocked it out in like a year and a half, 2 years, and got like, 3.5 plus GPA because I'm a little older now, and now I have purpose. Right. So now like I realize sitting in this class is costing money, and it's your whole mentality shifts when there's a purpose behind it and you can see the end goal. Where I just never had that in the years prior. I was just swimming in nothingness.
Right. So let this be a call to you guys that are listening to this. If you've gone through similar life experiences and you have a platform to be able to share those things with other young men or women in your life, then take advantage of that and actually reach out. Because if you think that, that person's got somebody already, they probably don't. And don't just assume that they've got somebody else in their life speaking these good things over them and directing them and giving them, more of a vision and all of those things. So let this be a reminder that you should speak up and you should reach out to folks and give them some clear direction, because I think what Josh is saying is that's what he's going to do for his sons now. And he didn't have that, right?
Yeah. And I mean, this is no like indictment on my parents or anything. Like I had every opportunity to succeed. It was just that transition from high school to college. I just didn't have the skills to like be my own man at that time and like make good long-term decisions,
right?
Which a lot of guys lack that anyway. Yeah. Even people, and back to your point about like investing in folks or your own kids or whatever, those high school age kids that just struggle. They get through school, but it was kind of a nightmare for them to like sit through class and all that stuff. They may not need to go to college. Like that it's becoming more common thought now.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, even like 6 years ago, it was like, oh, how dare you? Like everyone needs to go to college. But I think it's becoming more mainstream. They may not. Like, and again, those aren't even the highest paying jobs out of college anymore. Like there are welders, plumbers, heavy machinery operators, all making great money right out of high school, go to a trade school for a little bit. So, anyway.
Right. Okay. So I love this because the title of our episode was Analyze This with Josh, because I think that's one of his great qualities is he is able to analyze things and kind of break them down. Sometimes you would probably say that you overanalyze some stuff. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good quality that you have. And I really appreciate how you're going back now and being able to think what you would have done differently. And because you're taking that time to analyze your 20-something self, you're going to have a massive impact on those around you. And so I really appreciate that about you. So let's move on to your current job that you're doing. So you are an analyst, right? And it's something you're really, really good at.
Yeah.
So there's sales operations analyst. So talk to us about that.
Well, hold on. You said you changed majors. And I know you were a geology major
to
begin with.
That's right. I totally forgot about that.
Listen, I think all this worked out in your favor because I would probably rather, I think you got a business degree. I don't know what kind. Management. I'm probably right about that. But I would rather study geology than management, but probably coming out of school. I mean, how many geology jobs are there out there?
There's a lot. I mean? You'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
Just digging in the dirt? Like
it's not
with
like
a pickaxe?
Well, it kind of, a lot of geology overlaps with your industry. It's like, let's do soil testing. And those are a lot.
Yeah, you got to do core
geology
samples and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not just like finding the rocks.
All right, look, I take it back. All right,
no, it's good. It would have been a good path, and it was interesting. I just lacked the fortitude to see it through. So, yeah, back to current day. I've had analyst in my title for like 10 years now. I've always worked in a sales operations team. Basically, sales operations is not like selling products. It is helping our salespeople who are like, and the way I look at it is if our salespeople aren't efficient and they're not finding what they need to find quickly and they don't have the tools they need to find new prospects or to close their deals faster, then the company's not making money, then we're not making money. So that's always the overriding.
You're analyzing not only the statistics of the sales teams, but you're also analyzing why or why not they're doing a good job.
Yeah. So there's tons of different little departments within sales operations. So there's a group order processing. So when an order comes in, like someone's got to execute that and get the product out to the customer. There is a team, and I've touched on almost all of these throughout my career. There's a team that, looks at the data of the current, what we call pipeline, the current funnel of business that's potential, that's coming in at some point in the future. We're looking at that and forecasting what the numbers are going to be, what the sales numbers are going to look like. We put together data for executives to look at how did we do last year? Which region did the best? All that data, breaking that out. There's a team that's just, at least in our company, that just works on data. that just keeps the data, because we have hundreds of thousands of accounts in our CRM, our customer relationship management system, hundreds of thousands of accounts, millions of contacts. All that data lives in the cloud in this system, and keeping that data clean and free of duplicates is like a whole job for another team. Then there's a team that does reporting. And so that team, and I've been on that team before, because some of these departments are smaller and larger. At some companies, a couple of people do all these jobs. At my company, it's a little bigger, so it's spread out. Anyway, where I come in today is I am kind of a liaison between our sales operations team and our sales management. So the sales management is saying, my guys need more people to call. They don't know who to call. So we invest in these tools of companies that have data warehouses of people, of potential contacts, and we buy those and put them in our system, and then those guys can call. And they say, hey, the way we email is too slow. Like we're using Outlook. We have to type up one email, send it. Type up another email, send it. Now we have this tool that I helped implement that, you can send batches of emails and you can schedule emails to automatically go out while still giving them like a personal voice so they don't sound 100% like marketing.
Right.
So that's where I come in, is like kind of that liaison of what do the sales guys need and ladies to sell more efficiently? How do I make their day easier? How do we automate more things for them? And how do we get them the information they need? So yeah, that's basically what I do.
Okay. Well, so that was interesting for me to hear, because we're really, really good friends. And I don't think I've ever heard you describe what exactly it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of had an idea.
I also feel like you just described the entire plot of Office Space. Like, who was the guy who was like, I'm a people person. Like, I take the order from
you
this
guys
guy
don't
to the
understand.
engineer.
Yeah.
When he's describing that, I wanted to just be like, what do you actually,
What exactly do you do
what
here?
exactly
No,
do
I'm
you
going to
do
say that
here?
you hit, like, in terms of the career that Josh Matthews should be doing, I think you hit it like 80% on like the thing that you need to be doing.
Well,
just
yeah.
because you'll sit on the internet and like put all these statistics together for like 4 hours about nothing. And I'm like, who
I can't
cares?
do that.
And that's basically what you go do every day at work.
Yeah. So one thing that I appreciate that, I think. And
that's
one thing I like today is working with salespeople, because a lot of times there's a divide. Like most of our team, typically in like sales operations at companies I've worked for, they're like data people, they're analytical people, and they have a certain personality type. And then you have the salespeople over here, totally different personality type, but they need each other like super badly. And so a lot of times there's conflict. They don't speak the same language. And I think that I've kind of found a niche there of like being I can talk to salespeople. I understand how they run their day, how they do their business. Then I can interpret that for requests to, the folks that are a little more analytical. And yeah, I really enjoy that part, because I love the selling process. I'm not a good salesman, but I love being attached to it in that way. So,
okay. What would be the best thing about your job? What do you most like? What's the most satisfying thing about your work?
So a lot of things come down to like efficiencies. So I mentioned a tool we recently purchased. So I kind of led the implementation of this tool. And it was a long process. We're a cybersecurity company. So any technology that comes and like touches our systems has to be vetted like crazy. And I mean, it took forever. Like if we were a small startup, we could have implemented this tool in like 2 or 3 weeks. And this took like 8 or 9 months to implement. Getting that tool off the ground literally saved each salesperson probably like an hour and a half a day.
Whoa,
like per sales rep across the company. And so, yeah, when I get to see things like that, those kind of efficiencies, that makes me happy.
Okay. What's the thing that you least like?
Oh, least like.
Where should I start?
No, I don't have a lot of my current situation is awesome. Least like, I really don't have to do a lot of stuff at work that I really don't like. There are some like side projects I get, there's no one specifically that should own a project, and they're like,
we'll just give it a
Josh can handle that, which is fine. Like, I'm a team player.
So what you're saying is you're so good that people just pass things off to you?
No, some things I'm like not there's not a clear answer because we have those departments like the data team, the reporting team, the order processing team, and like some things come in like from marketing, like maybe marketing will need help with a particular thing, and I like working with marketing as well. But yeah, it'll be kind of like a marketing-ish project, and it kind of lands on my plate because everyone else is like very specific about what they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I really appreciate this, and I think that it gave our listeners a better understanding of what Josh has been through in life and his current job. I thought it was interesting. So there's a little get to know your host thing. I think we're maybe going to do this for me. I don't want to do it, but neither did these guys. I don't think we're going to do it next week. I think we'll kind of space these out a little bit. But I'm all over the place. So I'm just kind of wild card. And
it's going to be a 12-hour episode.
My answers to the questions may change between now and the time we record. So, just buckle up and get ready for that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, Josh has a small-ish segment for us, I think.
It'll be quick.
Okay, we'll be back after the break.
This episode is sponsored by 1776 United. 1776 United is a patriotic and historically inspired lifestyle brand. They make the best patriotic shirts and apparel on the market today. I personally own many of their products, and if you want to don patriotic gear without looking gaudy, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and at 1776united.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Josh, what you got for us this week?
So I'm going to do a little, I guess you could call them icebreaker types. I think I did this one a few times ago, a few episodes ago.
Random questions.
Yeah, it's going to be like 3 or 4 questions that'll get a little inside our heads a little bit. So I've got 3 just easy, quick questions that may or may not be interesting, but we'll find out.
Oh, they're going to be interesting.
Let's kick this off with a really easy one that everyone always asks. Have you seen a good movie recently? Like, it doesn't have to be a new release, just something that you've watched, an actual movie that you've watched recently that you're like, that was good. That was actually good.
Man, I have been super lame. I mean, for months. I just have gone on this. I only watch YouTube. It's funny. I met up with one of our top contributors to the Facebook group, Brad Woodall. And he said kind of the same thing. He said, yeah, man, all I watch is YouTube. It's like,
I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
Did we just become best friends?
Yes. So I really don't watch a whole lot of other things besides.
Tim's not a movie guy. I don't feel like you don't watch
he's
movies.
Been into movies before.
Really?
Yeah.
But I just nothing's coming in my head right now that I've watched recently.
Sorry, I should have prepped this.
One that I watched recently that I loved, and you just asked me about it.
Don't say it.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes,
it was a great movie. Loved it. Extremely violent for about 10 minutes.
I liked about it is Quentin Tarantino. You're like, okay, this is going to be gory. We get it,
right?
My wife was watching with me, and she just kept saying, like, every 10 minutes, she's like, when is it coming?
So that's what I loved about it. That's what I loved about that movie was it. I don't mind slow movies, and it's
pretty slow.
It is a slower movie, but like the tension that it builds during like the story, like that's just what I loved about it. It was so good to me.
Yeah, this is going to be, so you stole mine, so I'm going to my backup. Because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was excellent, beyond my expectations. I don't like Brad Pitt. He was hilarious in this movie. He was
good.
He outclassed Leonardo DiCaprio completely in that movie. My backup is not a movie, but should be Band of Brothers.
Oh man!
I recently completed. Man, I'm gonna probably watch that one.
It's an American classic.
It's such a good.
They
movie.
used to play that. I don't know. So HBO did that, but I never had HBO, so I don't know how I watched it. But anyway, they used to play it. I think on Thanksgiving, like they would play a marathon on whatever. It must have been AMC. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But they would play, and that was my favorite thing about Thanksgiving for like 4 years in a row was just camping out back when I didn't have a wife or kids. I could do whatever I wanted. And I would just camp out and watch Band of Brothers. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Tim, that reminds me. I still have your DVDs.
I was going to ask you that.
We have them. We have them. We didn't watch them. We watched it because it came out on
can I borrow
Prime or something.
Yeah, you totally can. Because I feel like not crazy long ago.
I'm not lying. Tim let me borrow the Hard Metal Case DVD set over 10 years ago.
Whoa.
Over
Okay.
10 years ago.
Well, that
That's
makes
a great
sense.
friend.
It might be 9 years ago, but I think it was while Chris and I were engaged.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So over 10 years.
While we're
Right.
being honest, I think I owe you a copy. It's of an Adam Carolla movie. I want to say it's The Hammer because
Ooh.
like
I don't know if I
5 or 10
that.
years ago,
I don't
you
think
came
I
over.
bought that.
We watched that at my house and you left it there. And then my kids stepped on the CD and scratched it all up. And I was like, gonna have to buy him one. Never did it.
Don't worry about it. Okay, moving on to number 2. I gave you guys like 7 minutes of prep on this one, so you should have one. What is your favorite quote, or just a good quote? And it could be one you've just recently heard. Good quote. Go.
Yeah, mine's kind of unfair because it involves a lot of explanation behind it. And I've probably got lots of other quotes. I just had read this earlier, I think today, or heard it somewhere else. And it has to do with my faith, and it's by C.S. Lewis. And he says, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." So it's got a lot of deep implications there about finding your satisfaction and all kinds of other things and not meeting that satisfaction. And how I believe that my true satisfaction is in God. And then, I got a whole nother life to live after this. And so, anyways, lots to go into there, but I would say that is my answer. Dave, go beat it.
I will beat it. No, I won't beat it. I am not a big quote person.
Also not a goal setter.
And I'm not a goal setter, except for the fact that there are so many quotes out there that I hate. And there's one type in particular. It's the ones that like turn the words around on itself. Like, I think I've said it on this podcast before, but the one that always comes to mind is something to the effect of, it's not the amount of breaths in life you take, but it's about the moments that take your breath away. Those, I can't stand those quotes. I hate them so much. But
Not the size of the dog in the fight.
It's the
size of the fight in the dog.
right. Yeah, those just drive me nuts. And those are the ones that you see on Facebook all the time. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But anyway, so I started a new job recently. And when you start a new job, there's a bunch of stuff on your desk, or there's a bunch of stuff that they're like, here's a shirt, here's a coffee mug, that kind of stuff. So I get there and there's a calendar on my desk, right? And it's one of these calendars that has like a quote of the day. And I was like, well, this is stupid. Well, then I open it up. I'm like, there's a lot of really good quotes in here.
Ooh. Okay.
And so again, I'm not a quotes person, but this one jumped out at me. This is just the other day on June 24th. The object, and this is fitting for what we've been talking about on this podcast. The object of education is to prepare the young to educate themselves throughout their lives. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful because, you go through your whole life going to school, and I feel like it's just most of it is rote memorization, and I don't remember anything that I learned in like history classes and stuff, obviously, because we were talking about when the Declaration of Independence was signed and we're not real sure. When it occurred in the order of events. But I just thought that was really powerful because it really makes sense that if you're educated well when you're young, then it causes you to have like a hunger for learning your entire life. So
Okay.
That's good. I'm going to get real meta too, because I didn't know what Tim was going to ask me about during our segment earlier. But this is a quote that I heard just the other day from Jordan Peterson, who I've talked about before. Brief synopsis update on him. He was addicted to a anti-anxiety drug. He was prescribed
recently.
Yeah, about a year ago, I think. He was prescribed a particular drug that he didn't know a bunch about. And he's a clinical psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but he tries to keep up with, he's talked about drug dependency and things like that. Anyway, he had anxiety, got prescribed this drug called benzodiazepine or something. They call it benzos. Anyway, apparently it's almost impossible to detox from. It's one of those things that a large percentage of people who get on it can never really get off of it without a super slow detox. He was having these side effects, so he had to do a fast detox. No one does that. He had to go to Russia. He's been gone months and months and months, almost dying multiple times. He just had a podcast with his daughter. He's been feeling good for a few weeks now, thinking clearly and better enough to get in front of a camera and do an interview. So during this interview, it was very, very hard to watch because I really respect this dude. He has a lot of good things to say, and he's kind of been off the radar for a while. Anyway, during this interview, one sentence he said was, this is where it ties into kind of what we're talking about today, is if you're going to wait to learn from people who don't make mistakes or don't have tragedy enter their life, you're going to spend a long time waiting to learn something. Not even like affects like that's related to things happening in the world today. There's just so much about, and I mean, even to Tim's quote, if you put all of your faith in like a person or people, like they are going to fail you, you know, like people of this earth.
Absolutely.
Like 100% of the time, they're going to fail you at some point, like, because everyone is imperfect. And so if we try to hold everybody to this crazy standard of perfection,
well, now we can just cancel them though, Josh, you know, I mean, it's no problem.
Right. Yes. Even if they like founded the country, you can cancel them. So anyway, that's a good one to me. Cause like people, yeah, they, you know, if one slip up today, we're like canceled, you do not matter. Your opinion does not matter anymore. But you know, one of the most brilliant minds of today said this quote, you know, speaking of himself, really, because he was speaking about people who are going to now say, why should I ever listen to Jordan Peterson? Like he can't even keep his own house in order about like getting addicted to this anxiety medication. Should we wrap it up there? I got one more.
Yeah, if it's quick. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It is quick. Who is, if you ever have met, who is the famous person you've ever met?
The most famous person?
Most famous person you ever met.
Tara Reid smelled her hair.
Met.
Oh.
Next.
That I met?
You smelled Tara Reid's hair.
Yeah, I did. I mean, you don't know that I didn't meet her. I mean, if I smelled her hair, then I probably met her. No, I didn't meet her. I'll save that story for another time. But probably has to be an athlete. I'm going to say like John Smoltz, maybe.
Okay.
When I leave, I'm going to walk out this door and be like, dang it, it was Barack Obama. Like there's got to be somebody more famous than John Smoltz.
I'm trying to think. I haven't really met a whole lot of, I mean, I've met.
Most famous.
Yeah. Most famous.
You know a guy that was on like The Voice, right?
Oh yeah.
You know more people than I could ever know in a lifetime. Like how,
but famous people, I don't know. You know what though? Here's what I'll say. I haven't directly met a lot of famous people. However,
what about Clark Howard?
I know a lot of people.
Clark Howard.
Well, yeah, but that's just like that's pretty local.
You ate ate wings with him like in China. I mean, come on, that's pretty.
And McDonald's a lot.
Anyway, all right.
Okay. For those of you guys who don't know, Clark Howard, he does a radio show. It's been on forever here in Atlanta, and he's syndicated across the country. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess he had a show on what was that? CNB or MSNBC?
It's hard to say.
I don't even remember.
The channels changed. HLN.
But I would say that I've got a degrees of separation, like very low degrees of separation between me and probably a lot of famous people. I don't know.
Who could you get on the phone right now? Could you get anybody on the phone?
Maybe.
He knows a senator or a congressman.
Okay.
Yeah, if I started thinking, look, okay, as one of my good friends used to always say, Tim be knowing people. Or no. He said, you got to be knowing somebody.
Yeah, you could maybe be elected the mayor of Lake Marriott. I feel like you know enough people. You could start a campaign.
Not in the city limits, but other than that, yes. Okay, Josh, what about you?
All right. I mean, I didn't smell Tara Reid's hair, but went to New York for my wife's cousin's wedding. Went into the city one night. Happened to be a Mother's Day filming of SNL. They were just getting out of 30 Rock. And so we just stopped to see who was coming out of the building. It was the night Betty White was there.
Whoa.
And they also brought back a bunch of former female cast members, like from the 90s. So like Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, Will Forte, back when he was on the show, Jorma Tishone from The Lonely Island.
You said just one person.
Gabe from The Office was there. Yeah, we got selfies with like all these people, like 10 in a row.
Nice.
And then who was it? Jason Sudeikis.
Yep.
Got to talk to him. That was back one of the early versions of the iPhone that could, at night, it would take like blurry pictures like crazy. He like hung out until we could like get a solid picture. He's like, make sure that one's good, you know? And yeah, it was nice. And then who else? That's about it.
Oh, Will Ferrell. Oh, yeah.
No, Will Ferrell wasn't there. But later or earlier that night, can't remember which, Oprah Winfrey. Like we saw Oprah Winfrey in person. I didn't meet her, but she was
walking
in
down
the
the
street.
What?
No, she was at Radio City Music Hall. I don't know what she was doing. She was like coming out of Radio City Music Hall, getting into a limo, and like saw her like 10
That's
feet away.
crazy.
It was interesting.
I feel like I'm old enough now. I've thought about this enough, and I don't get starstruck. Like that's not.
I don't either.
It's not really a part of me. Maybe 20 years ago might have done that, but I think now just be like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, I was old enough where I wasn't like, oh my god, like it was just like, hey, you're a human. Let's get a selfie. It was fun, but I wasn't like, oh, I can't believe this is happening.
I feel like if I met like Tom Cruise, I would be starstruck about how short he is. Like that I'd be like, man, you are way shorter than I thought you were. Like that kind of thing.
I'm sure he doesn't ever hear that.
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Hopefully you guys learned some interesting things about Josh, and I guess my show like this will be coming up at some point. Let's just kick that can down the road.
If you're lucky.
Quite a ways. Take some time to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Share this podcast with a friend, and definitely check out our Facebook group as well. We'll catch you guys next time.